I'm excited to spend a little time this afternoon with my good friend, serial entrepreneur and Minnesota tech startup junkie, Doug Berg. I've known Doug for about 20 years. I've had a front row seat for what's been a pretty epic journey. Most notably, the sale of Jobs to Web in 2010 to Success Factors for $110 million, which is an awesome exit. But there's a whole story around that I thought it would be fun to unpack. And I also thought I and our readers would get some incredible insight. So thanks for taking some time, man.
My privilege, thank you.
Yeah, so maybe a good place to start as a jumping off point. Just a little bio sketch, high level background on kind of your entrepreneurial journey to today.
Well, I think as I've shared with you, I'm an accidental entrepreneur, right? I didn't grow up as a kid saying I want to be an entrepreneur when I grow up. I didn't know that I wanted to be anything.
I was going to say, what did you want to be?
I wanted to, go fishing and all the stuff Minnesota kids do. But I didn't take academically in school. My nickname was Doug Minus because I did just enough to kind of get through the classes. I did go to St. Cloud State, tried to get into computers. I knew I wanted to get into computing. And unfortunately, that's right when PCs were coming out. I don't want to date myself, but when you got to wait in line with 400 other people to get access to the computer, it's not going to work.
Right.
So I came back, went to Hennepin Tech, learned how to computer program and assembly and COBOL on mainframes, did a 3-year course in 10 months. And so there was something in that technical training. It was a combination of an Israeli instructor that took incredible interest in me and stayed close and taught me. And I finally once found something I could do that just electrified.
You were good at it, good at set you on fire.
Very good. And it was a creative outlet for me.
Right.
Because I could write a program that did something, and it either printed something, calculated something. And so it really was a great starting point for my career. So I did that, went to the Institute of Arts, Children's Theater Company. Ran all their stuff. I brought the first PCs in that replaced typewriters. And it was really such a powerful starting point for my entrepreneurial career because even though I was a technologist, I literally got hit over the head with a purse by one of the elderly women that I took her typewriter away. She did not want me to take her typewriter away. But I was a mandate. I had to get these PCs onto these desks. And I said, what are you so afraid of? And she said, I know this. This is my tool. I can make this happen. And I said, well, what about this do you not like? If you could change anything, what would you change? And she said, I hate doing the backspace and the whiteout and the retyping. And I said, can I show you how you do that on this PC? And I set it up and I booted it up and I showed her, I let her type and I showed her the backspace key. And she's like, well, why didn't you show me that?
Right.
And instantly I was able to get her to adopt the new technology. But it was a powerful lesson for me, Ryan, that until you understand the fears that people have with whatever evolutionary or revolutionary technology you're going to bring to them, you have to mitigate their fears in order for them to adopt.
I mean, that's been a metaphor for your whole journey because essentially you've been taking people's typewriters away and replacing it with something that's better but disruptive, and there's uncertainty around all of that. So that's
exactly right.
Yeah, so you segue from there into the business career.
I did. I went to a headhunting and recruiting firm because I wanted to get into sales. I did the Tony Robbins Walk on Fire experience. I wanted to win friends and influence people, even as a technologist. And so I went to the firm. They said, look, there's no jobs for your technical skills.
Right.
But you know how to talk and you know how to communicate with people. Come and be a headhunter. So I started headhunting. Phenomenal success at that, right? Loved engaging with people, loved talking and finding out what their next job was and what their next move was. And then I would help connect that for people so they could move forward. And in so doing, I moved forward with them. And then the internet hit. So I thought, geez, I don't got to keep calling everybody all the time. I can create a website and everyone can log in and that will be the connection conduit for their career. And so I started techies.com. And I had to learn in my headhunting and consulting business how to do accounting, how to do finance, how to do payroll, how to deal with legal, big contracts, big customers.
Sales, enterprise sales.
Yeah, I had to learn all of this stuff as I learned how to build a business. And so, those things all kind of came online as I was focusing on my main goal of building my consulting and staffing business. And then when the internet hit, I knew nothing about raising venture capital and money. And so I had to reach out and recruit and find somebody else that knew about that. I found Dan Frawley. Dan came in, he's a Harvard graduate, he's raised venture capital. I made him the CEO of the new internet business. He went on to raise the $110 million, and I got to learn how to do massive national marketing, go-to-market strategy, hiring 50 people a week. How do you train and onboard people that quickly?
Well, there's the first entrepreneurial lesson, right? Surround yourself with people who kind of close some of the gaps and maybe bring some skill to the table that you don't have.
Absolutely.
And that insight was pretty powerful, because a lot of people, I think, would have held on to that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that think it's their idea. They need to be the CEO. They need to own 51%. Right. And all of those illusions are things that actually hold a majority of people back. There's one Mark Zuckerberg, right? Those are complete anomalies. For most of us as entrepreneurs, if you're really committed to the purpose of what you're trying to do, you'll be smart enough to do every job and get rid of every job as fast as you possibly can, including the CEO.
All right, it's huge insight. So let's unpack the techie story for just a minute, because it's a pretty epic journey. It took off. The timing was right, the idea was right, and it exploded. It's phenomenal growth out of the gate, right?
It did, yeah. So, we had come up with a formula, and look, everyone was excited about the internet when the internet took off, right? Every newspaper was going to go out of business. There was a lot of changes that happened. But even in those days, Ryan, of building our products, and you helped sell some of those solutions, we had a thing called the Internet Job Fair. Remember, we would combine television because people weren't ready to do a full leap onto the web. But as soon as we combined it with TV advertising, so local employers could represent themselves as brands that technologists would want to come and work at, then they could see those TV spots. They saw the impact that it made on wanting to have tech people come and work for them. But even as we had thousands of tech people coming to the website, learning more about these companies, saying, hey, contact me, I want to come and work for you, we couldn't get people to reach out to those people because it wasn't a method by which they were compatible, and their companies also wouldn't let them log on to the internet. So I had to get those AOL discs, remember, down at the Super Americas. I had to go to people's houses. I had to get them onto the internet, and even then I couldn't get them to adopt it. And remember, these are times when people would spend $5,000 or $10,000 on a single Sunday print ad and not get one resume.
That's right.
So they're desperate. And I've got thousands of people that have logged into the website and are saying, come and talk to me, and they won't do it. So remember the fax machine had come out, until we had changed it so that when someone registered on the website, it automatically faxed the resume in a method that they were used to receiving, did they all of a sudden go, ah. So much of success is being focused on achieving the outcome, getting adoption, finding ways to provide the value that your customers want in methods by which that they want. I could have sat back as a tech guy and said, my clients are so stupid. They don't get it. They don't want to adopt technology. But I would have killed myself.
It doesn't matter. That's right.
In the process of it.
Yep. So Techies explodes. This is, you're off and running. You got funding, you're hiring, customers are adopting the solution, and it looks like it's about to be a grand slam home run.
Absolutely. We kept raising tens and tens of millions of dollars. It was very exciting, hiring people, very expensive dinners.
Right.
And people were nuts at that time. We'd go to California and I'd have back-to-back meetings that lasted 20 minutes, and we would sign multi-$100,000 contracts.
Right.
With very little, information, stats, proof cases, all of that. People just were desperate for talent. So it was a wonderful way to grow it. And it got all the way to the point where, I'm on the airplane getting ready to go ring the bell at the NASDAQ, and that's in April of 2000, and the bankers call and say, get off the airplane. And we're like, what? And they're like, yeah, we think the stock market's going to dip. We'll just wait a week. Just get off the plane, we'll just wait. And a week became a month, and a month became a quarter became 9/11.
So you're about to cross the finish line, and it starts getting further and further away.
That's correct.
Yeah. And what happens next?
9/11 happened, and as you know, and most of us that were in business in those days, I mean, the lights went out, right? So it was a really, really difficult time. And in the process of that, of the downturn market, it was a free fall. And so we had to make some really hard decisions around, can we maintain this? I mean, we're burning $6 to $7 million a month in cash, and we couldn't sustain that. And so luckily, again, I had some very wise people around me that were on the techies team that saw the writing on the wall and said, you know, we're in Apollo 13 here, the entire economy. We need to make smart decisions, figure out what's good that's still on the boat. We had to cut hundreds of people very, very quickly. And so I got incredible lessons around not how just to scale a business up very quickly, but how to scale it down so that it could have the maximum runway. And unfortunately, when we got to the end, you know, we had to make a decision to pull the plug and go home. So,
so give me a couple of high lessons learned, and then I want to get into kind of what happens next. But so big lesson learned in scaling the business, and maybe one or two on the down side
I think,
of it.
so I think in the big lessons on scaling the business up, obviously, you're selling in every direction when you're starting up. You're selling to investors, to employees, to your spouse,
right.
You know, to your friends. And learning how to not only tell a story infectiously so that people capture the vision of what you're doing. I mean, when you can tell a story to the point where everyone you talk to wants to invest in you, including your customers.
Right.
I want to sign up, but I want to buy stock. Yeah. You know you've got your pitch and your idea right when you're getting those kinds.
When people believe the way you believe. And I think that's one of the things you've brought to the table through this whole journey is your ability to tell the story, sell, believe, and convince other people to believe. And I think sometimes it's one of the challenges that entrepreneurs have, explaining their idea, getting confused in the technology, and you've always kind of had that balance.
That's right. But I think what's true with any kind of sales situation is I'm not just telling a story that I believe. I need to tell it in a way that it taps into your belief.
Right.
And then we connect and see what's possible. And I always say, to the degree that you can make your idea their idea as fast as possible is what's going to be equal to getting as many people involved in your project, getting customers to become advocates and raving fans of your business. And if we did anything right, we really spent and invested as much in that as we did in anything else, beyond marketing, beyond advertising. How do we make sure that our customers are getting the full experience and the full value of the solution that we're providing? Because back in the web days, a lot of people sold a lot of stuff and no one ever used it, and they just bought it because they had to, and it never translated into the value that the customer wanted.
I think there's a huge insight. So that's insight on
the upside.
On the upside. And then on the downside, when you had to kind of unpack that and it became such a near miss. Talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so it's a panic when you're in a free fall.
Right.
And yet at the same time, you're scrambling to do as much as you can to retain, your customers, the employees that you have. You have to make very, very hard decisions about who stays and who goes. But making those decisions sooner, treating people honorably as you make those decisions. We were told on our first massive layoff not to talk to anybody and on the way out, right? This was a big piece of legal advice. And to just sit in our office, right? And let everybody leave. And I thought, no way, man. I asked for these people's blood, their souls, their energy, their sacrifice up to this point. I want to stand before them and let them know, due to conditions beyond our control, unfortunately, we have to make some tough decisions. There's not anybody in this room I would have liked to let go. We decided what we decided. I hope your time here has been satisfying, no matter how long it's been. And I'm here to help carry your stuff out to your car. And if I can ever be of value of you, even after you leave here today, I'm going to do everything I can. And man, I'll tell you, for years, after we've laid people off. I've run into them at Target. I've seen them on LinkedIn. They've reached out. They want to come back and work with us because, again, they knew what our commitment level to them was, even in letting them go. And that's an incredibly important thing, is to learn how to honor people, whether you're handing them an investor check when days were great or you're handing them a pink slip on the day that they have to get laid off. You can do it honorably on either way.
Great insight and lesson. So that has a lot to do with kind of how you treat other people. Talk about the toll this took on you. Your idea, you gave birth to it. You see you're on the plane, about to cross the finish line, and this ends up at zero. And talk about kind of psychologically, personally, I mean, where you were in your life, the effect it had. I'd love to get into that a little bit.
So after I made the horrible decision to finally go, it's over, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you never want to admit it's done. But in my own self, I knew I'd done everything I could to make this thing go. And I called all of our investors and told them one by one, I apologize. It didn't work out. We gave it everything we could. And the thing that shocked me, Ryan, is that to the investor, they said not one of our other entrepreneurs has called us and apologized for not making it. And they said, kid, it was beyond your control. We knew you did everything you could. If you ever need money again, it's yours. And true to form, the first guy that invested in Jobs to Web was a previous investor that lost millions.
Right.
And so
it's pretty good validation.
It was a good one. But then I turned my phone off. I went home. I took 6 months off. My third daughter was born. And I really, Ryan, had to go through an exercise where, as an entrepreneur, your ideas always kind of become your identity.
Right.
And you're promoting it, you're living for it, you're driving towards it. And I had to frankly go through a pretty heavy detachment phase, a crisis of meaning, I like to call it, where I could finally go, look, is there enough Doug inside of who Doug is and the idea of Doug that I don't need another idea in order to have value and meaning in my life? And it was a grueling process to go through that time. And yet, man, I came out on the other side of it, I think, much more healthy and had a much better relationship with whatever idea, whatever company, whatever effort I start up. And it's been really powerful for me, and it's been great advice as I've worked with other entrepreneurs. And I can tell when they're over-attached and when they're over-identifying with their idea, and just trying to help them to get a little distance from this. It means too much to you.
So two questions about kind of navigating that period of time that I think there might be some good insight around it. How do you know when to say when? You said that was one of the toughest things, and people do get attached to their idea, and they can live in that idea, not move it forward, or kind of get stuck for chunks of time, years and years.
Hey man,
how do you know when to quit?
After you've had your ass kicked good, that's typically a good time to quit. And I definitely had my ass kicked, if you will, in the process of that. But there's a lot of times to know, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs that want me to angel invest, and people can set time boundaries around how long they're going to give an idea. Certainly I see people try to make things work way longer than they should. And the problem I see with most of the startup world and most of the entrepreneurial world, there's so much rah that happens in those cycles. And we all want our friend's idea to become something, but rarely will people tell people the truth. Mr. Wonderful,
that idea, right?
The Simon Cowell, everyone loves him, but you know what? There's rarely people that say, look, this is a bad idea. It's been done before. It's going to kill you. It's going to wipe out your time. Walk away. Or join something else and learn something else, or participate in something else. And I just wish there was actually quite a bit more. You try to go raise money at a venture firm, and you get that all day long.
Right.
But there's 100 miles from when your cousin Jimmy tries to start something and ends up at a venture firm, and it would just do a lot of people a lot of good if we would be more honest with people around some of their ideas, and if something's not a good idea. Just tell them it's not a good idea. But look, as a pragmatic startup guy, I've started up and shut down a dozen companies, right? I tried to do a startup on Facebook that was going to help parents watch out for their kids' behavior on the social network.
I remember that
It's a
idea.
noble
I remember
idea.
that idea over lunch.
It's a noble
Yeah.
idea. If
I
they were
remember-
saying something bad, if they were
Right.
it was a big need. But unfortunately, because Facebook was changing their APIs and their access points, and when we started to understand the legal ramifications, if something bad would have happened to a kid and we didn't alert on it, right? All of a sudden, this great idea started to become full of, oh my God, this doesn't scale. We had to walk away as quickly
Right.
and shut it down and get rid of it. And so I think as long as people can be honest with themselves and say, either I'm way too invested in this, or I don't know if it's going to scale and it's not giving me the feedback, because ideas talk to you. And they'll talk to you with people's enthusiasm and excitement, but until somebody writes you a check, until somebody signs the contract, until somebody renews on your idea, you don't really have something that's got legs.
And I think that's so valuable, because I think what gets talked about so often is the one success, the $110 million, not the dozen, hey, I started and had to quit because the idea was bad, because it couldn't scale, I couldn't get other people to believe, we couldn't get energy around it, it was the wrong idea. And I'm sure you've learned tons from the dozen failures, probably more than the one success or the biggest success, right?
All day. And you know, the other thing is, the starting idea is never the scaling idea. And so
Yes.
you might be in the neighborhood of something that's got a lot of potential, but your customers, and as you start delivering that service, you'll start getting feedback and you'll start giving pivot points that will talk to you and start letting you know that your idea needs to go slightly a different direction. And to the degree that you can pay attention to that is the degree by which you might have something that's worth 10 million, now it's 100 million or $1 billion, right? And I think most entrepreneurs get so addicted to that original idea, they have a very
let go.
hard time
Creating some space
going,
or
wow, if
evolving
I
it.
just do that, you know. And that's what happened with Jobs to Web. You know, I started the company as Hot Gigs, which was a contractor marketplace. I was trying to revolutionize how companies hired contractors. And every time I'd go pitch, like United Health Group or, you know, these big companies, they would get on Google and they would say, how do you get your people, your candidates to come? And I would tell them, look, we do search engine optimization. You know, type in healthcare nurse jobs in Minnesota, and look, there it is, that goes to Hot Gigs, my company. And my clients kept on saying, I want that. That's what I want.
Right.
I don't want contract labor. That's cute. It's a good idea. And I'd gotten $5 million in venture financing, but I want you to do that. And jokingly, I said, well, for $100,000, I'll do that for you.
Yeah.
Sold. I got a check. A week later, I got another check. I ran back to the development guys. I said, we're shutting Hot Gigs down. We're going to help people bring their jobs to the web. I think I went and met with you at that time. And that was paying attention. That was knowing how and when to pivot. Because I'd called on 100 staffing firms and said, look, you got people sitting on the bench, you're losing money. I've got a way to promote that talent into big companies, takes all your selling. And they were reluctant. They fought it. They hated the idea. It was no, this is a relationship business. We don't want technology. So I had wrestled enough with that to know
It was time.
a lot of frustration
Yep.
and no friction and big money and better customers. And I knew how to do it, and I pivoted, and that became what
That
took
became
off.
the runway, right? So let's take one step back, because we'll get into the takeoff, which is an exciting story. But I want to close the loop on getting through the crisis of meaning. So because a lot of people, a dozen failures, shut down, you're almost to IPO, zero, and now the 6 month. A tip or two on navigating that for someone else, another entrepreneur who inevitably does.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question there's a crisis of identity and meaning, like I talked about. I turned off my cell phone. I actually went so far. I had the best cell phone number on the planet. I'm not going to tell it. But I mean, I shut it down. And for 6 months, I didn't take calls. I didn't get on the internet. I didn't do email. I literally just said, I'm going to get my feet on the ground, right? And frankly, I had a great coach who you and I both mutually know. You have to reach out to someone very wise and with very good understanding of kind of the curve of career, of life, of those kind. I read a ton to try to understand, you know, why was I taking so much on myself that this personal, I let everybody down. I had $1 million gift slated to our local church who I was very involved with. And man, sat with the pastor for, I'm like, I'll let you down, And so luckily the people around me, they're like, what are you talking about, And so even helped me to get rid of some of the stinking thinking around how much did I over-identify with this entrepreneurial thing, and how much personal responsibility did I take on that was inappropriate. I'd hired family members, neighbors, right? And then I'd had to let them, and I had to go through this process where I had a much healthier understanding of what my role needed to be, right? I had people come to me that had only worked with us for a week, and they said, look, man, don't worry about it.
Best week I ever had.
It was the best week I ever
Right.
Even if I knew it was going to happen this way again, I'd come back,
I'd do it again.
And, the beauty of 3 or 6 months away from that and seeing everyone gets new jobs, everyone moves on, everyone, because as an entrepreneur, you're not just bringing an idea to life. You're typically bringing a company to life. You're bringing a culture to life. You're bringing teams to life. And as an entrepreneur, you typically think that all of that's it's all on your shoulders. And man, if I could give entrepreneurs any advice, it would be, don't do it. You can bring energy and life and all of that, but do it in a way that you've got a healthy relationship and a balanced entrance and launching point, and realize that you don't need to take all of that on. Right. People are their own people. They'll make their own decisions. If they want to be involved, that's fantastic. Never hold back on investing in folks and whatever, but never take responsibility for their future. Never take responsibility for the future of your idea. It's a difficult balance to walk, but it's one so critical that unless you do it, you're going to have an unhealthy.
To being healthy and sane and having good personal relationships and a quality of life, which is all has to be part of the journey.
Has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. So you come out of the crisis in a healthier place, and you're going to go again. You're taking I don't
know how not to do it. I've not had a paycheck.
You're unemployable at this point, right?
I'm self-unemployed, which is great. But again, I called our old clients back. I said, hey, I'm looking for what's next.
Right.
And a lot of them, very quickly said, well, we liked what you did with techies, but we want you to do it for us. And I only had to hear it 3 times, and I thought, there's something there.
There's something there.
Yeah.
And so you make the pivot, jobs to web becomes jobs to web.
That's right.
And you start down that track. And talk about kind of the second run at this, because I'm sure smarter, better, faster, stronger.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a space I knew, which was nice, but I was much more reluctant to just launch into it. I just wanted to get and I think you were with me on one of our first sales pitches. I don't know if you remember, with Trudy, right?
I was.
And even then, when we talked to her, she said, look, I think at that time she was going to give us $50,000, which was a meaningful part of her budget. And Trudy knew how to work with an entrepreneur, especially guys like you and me. And she said, remember what she said? I'm going to give you my money, but if this doesn't work, people are going to die. She was recruiting nurses.
That's right.
And she used that statement.
And I think I'll tell you,
there I went again. It was like, people are going to die if this doesn't work. And, I brought that back to my office, and it only lasted about an hour. And I went, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to make this work.
Going to make it work. Yep.
You know what? People are going to die anyhow. Because if I take nurses from Mayo and put them in Health East, people are going to die at Mayo. I'm like, I got this. So again, you still work very hard. You make sure your customers, and Trudy got great value out of the thing we did. She got promoted. She used technology in a way she loved. We still provided the value, but I was able to still launch the business with a much healthier perspective on it.
So let's talk about the big finish line we crossed this time, right? Because we had the crisis of meeting, but you launched this in 2005.
2005. Yep.
And in 2010, you crossed the finish line.
We did. We sold to SuccessFactors and SAP for $110 million. And, from 2005, it took about a year to really figure out the business, get it to a place where then we could start layering people. And 2006 and 2007, as you remember, were horrible recession years, right? And yet we still grew the business 900% per year for 3 years. We made the Inc. 500 list 3 years running, which is really hard.
Yeah, so, and there's something about that. So we're in not the best of economies, and you launch a recruiting platform.
When no one's hiring.
When no one's hiring, and you're growing at 900% a year, and literally 5 years after inception, you're acquired for over $100 million. Give me a couple highlights on the growth trajectory, lessons learned. Who doesn't want that story?
That's right.
Right? So
I think the key, Ryan, was understanding where the market's at. You can grow a business phenomenally in the worst recession ever if you understand the dynamics that are at play. And so as we were launching the business, we were launching a recruiting technology play that was an enablement strategy. And a lot of big companies have multi-million-dollar recruiting budgets, right. But they're what's called use it or lose it budgets, right? And they're not spending money on Monster, and they're not spending money on Headhunter, and they're not spending. So they're stuck in this spot where they're like, where do I spend this money? And I only had to learn that once or twice, because what I did then was I repositioned us to say, look, I know you're sitting on a lot of cash. Just give me 10% of it. And what we're going to turn on is an engine. We're going to refactor you while you're not hiring, so that when you do need to hire in the future, you're going to be ready, and you're not going to need any of that other outside stuff. So just take a piece of your budget. Let's get you refactored. We're going to turn your Honda Accord into a Ferrari of recruiting at a time when you've got time. You're not going to have this time later on. And man, that was an absolute magic way for us to go to market.
Yeah. And so some of the same things that work in the techies run up, right? You get the story down, you get people excited about it, you deliver beyond the story, make customers feel like they're part of the, part of the journey with you. They get very, very invested, and I got a front row seat at all this, so I got to watch it. Were there other kind of critical inflection points, moments of truth, and kind of the jobs to web journey that you said, we got that right, and it made all the difference? And if you're sitting there on this journey, you need to understand this.
Yeah. So, and I wish I knew more about the exact science of how to make your customers your best salespeople and your most raving fans. Yeah. But I think you saw a lot of how, our customers in our industry were so vocal and advocated for us so much that at one of the trade shows, the trade show leader told our customers, don't mention jobs to web anymore, because it's frustrating all the rest of the vendors that they don't want to come to the conference anymore. That was amazing to me. And I think the key there, Ryan, is back to when I talked about make your idea your customer's idea. And if they believe that they're the ones that are innovating, because I'm somewhat of an innovative guy, but I like to say I'm much more of an interpreter than an innovator. And what I mean by that is, for example, when I was at Microsoft, they saw what our platform did.
Right.
But they said, you know what, we want to hire a lot of military people. And our biggest problem is that when people come out of the military, they know what their military codes are, but they don't know how to translate that to the jobs inside of Microsoft. And I said, well, yeah, tell me more about this. And they said, well, could your platform allow us to let them type into their military codes, and then it would instantly connect them and show them the jobs that would be a fit for them? I'm like, great, let's get a spreadsheet out. Let's do this right now. And man, it just caught fire. And within 90 days, we took, and that client got to co-design with us what this solution was. And Microsoft went on to win the presidential award for hiring military talent. But the beauty of allowing your customers to innovate with you is that, at the end of that, they recorded several of their military folks that had gotten jobs, that had fear about coming home, that had used our platform. They sent it to me and our employees. It made us cry. And it connected my employees to the vision of what our company was. It brought a level of meaning that was, I could never have bought something like that. And so when you share and hand out the innovation, make it everybody's startup. A lot of companies, as you know, in these big, they're starving to be innovative. And they're locked in a cage of their company.
Right.
And so when you bring a platform for them to be creative, watch out. You're going to have a lot of fun.
That's exciting. So Co-innovation with your
Co-innovation.
customers, huge. Drives evangelism, and that was so evident on this journey. And again, your commitment to just surrounding yourself with the right people. I think that was a big part of this home run too, right? Putting the right people around you.
Yep. Get out of your jobs as fast as you possibly can, you know.
Such good entrepreneurial advice.
Yeah.
Okay. And any other keys to crossing the finish line at the?
You know, it's an interesting thing. I think everyone they think we get to the end and then you're just, woo, you won the lottery and it's great. I'll be honest, the amount of work that you have to do, you're doing your full-time job, you're doing your family, right? You're trying to maintain some friendships, and you're selling your business, which is a full-time job on top of it. And by the time somebody goes, look, the wire transfer hit your bank, you're like, okay, great, but I got 8,000 things we need to do to start with the integration process into work. And so it's not right away that you get to celebrate, you know, the achievement of things like that, because when you're in it, you have so much responsibility and so many things going on. But I'll tell you later on, I've really come to value now the work, right? Being able to provide gifts to friends. You know, my wife and I took a group of our friends on vacation with us. They haven't been on vacation in 10 years, right? Because they're struggling to make it and stuff. And so to be able to do things like that for the people around you, to be able to help provide financial support and needs for people. And my daughter's got a friend who just went to South America, and she barely could afford the plane ticket. And so being able to give her money so that she can go and experience in her college days a trip that's the way you should in South America, to me, those are the things now that I have a little more time, a little more margin, are the ways to give back, you know, as opposed to just trying to get your bank account to a level that you think you need it to be.
Because the bank account at the level of success, and we all can look at you and say, well, $100 million and a great story, and that's success. But the thing you just talked about, making it about other people and other people you care about, I think that's where the fulfillment comes in.
Absolutely.
And I think, and your awareness of that it's had an incredible influence and impact on me personally too. You talked about the work though, and I just, maybe just one other insight around that. Just at a high level, talk a little bit about the sacrifice of this journey, because let's face it, entrepreneurship is sexy right now. Being a tech startup guy, having a $100 million exit, all the magazines, the web shows, it's cool, right?
It's cool.
It's in vogue now. It wasn't maybe back in the day, but today it is.
Yep.
But talk about the sacrifice, like what went into, you know, on your whole journey.
Yeah. You know, it is a sacrifice, and there, you know, somebody had told me something early on, which was, you know, for something to live, something else has got to die. And so if you're going to go do this startup thing, where sometimes you're doing your day job on top of whatever your little startup thing is, and so your kids and the time with your kids are going to pay, your time with your friends is going to pay, your physical health might pay. You know, I think understanding that and knowing what that trade-off is that you're making consciously, because otherwise I watch people do it unconsciously, and it can eat up years of their lives, and they don't realize and see the price that they're paying in order for, and you know, sometimes if you're too overwhelming with your idea, you can consume conversations, and then people kind of quietly just don't want to be around you because you don't listen to people, right? And so it's been interesting to observe entrepreneurs, including myself, and to understand, when can I just sit back? When can I just enjoy? I got to a point, Ryan, where I don't want to tell my story anymore. I'm worn out with myself. I'm tired of doing this. And it was the best thing, and it was the most liberating thing in the world for me to be able to do. But, you know, if I was to do it all over again.
Yeah, give your 23-year-old self some advice.
I think the biggest thing, and I think anybody can cultivate this, and I watch a lot of my friends do this, especially those committed to their health, right, and their fitness health. They take care of themselves. And the biggest thing I've struggled with through the years is what I call job ambiguity, which is not knowing when I'm done. And I mean, I would get to the end of every night and write out the list of stuff that I need to do tomorrow. And I would go to bed racing in my head all night long. And I think a lot of career folks do this stuff, but as an entrepreneur, you know, your list may be a little longer. But a very wise person later in my days came and said, stop writing down all the stuff you're going to do tomorrow, and you need to start writing down what you accomplished today. And it's not just about the outcomes, it's about the relationships you've invested in, the decisions that you've made. And it was revolutionary for me. And I wished I would have done it younger, because I would have given myself more credit for what I'd accomplished every day instead of living in the anxiety of what
you have
needed
to do
be
tomorrow.
done. And I think I would have been a much more balanced person and better to be around. I think it would have even affected what showed up on the to-do list if I realized and gave credit for what actually ate up my time on any given day.
Really good insight. Appreciate the candor too. So knowing that, and now you've kind of are balancing the success and some fulfillment and meaning and giving back. It sounds like you may have sailed off into the sunset for a life of purpose.
Yeah,
I mean,
you wish.
But that's not the case. No. So you got done with this and sold it, and maybe talk a little bit about where you're at now.
Yeah. So, I've got another startup. I'd like to say I'm, wonderfully balanced, but I'm also still in a busy life phase where my parents need a lot of help and support. But, I'm there for them. And, somebody that you've lost your dad recently, that's a difficult thing, especially when your kids are going to college.
Right.
And so the beauty is I've specifically made a decision that I'm going to be present to the people in my life. And I'll do the startup and I'll invite people into it, but I'm letting my team do most of the work this time, right? I'm kind of sitting back a little bit more. I'm letting them make the decisions and to innovate. And I intentionally hired experienced people in this startup, which costs a little bit more money. You can't just hire green-eyed folks and teach them everything. And so I've taken a different tactic at this in this time in my life, and I'm really thankful I did. I lost a friend to cancer this last year. And, I got to take him to his chemo appointments. I got to spend that rich time with him. And so I'm not making the trade-offs this time, even though I'm doing something I'm very passionate about.
Well, let's talk about the passion a little bit. So you've seen a problem in the world. Is that where the idea? Is that where the genesis of it?
Yeah.
Marketing is broken.
I saw the problem at a personal level, but I see it obviously at a cultural level.
Let's talk about the problem.
Yeah. So, I think everybody knows that consumers are overwhelmed, right, with the amount of marketing and information. And the web is going through kind of another phase of massive evolution right now, in that customers hate their marketing,
Right.
They hate all the information that's coming. They want control over when, how, and if people communicate with them. I think our mobile phones accentuate this, right? Because this is a personal device to me.
It's
and
personal
if you break
space.
through to me as a text message and you're a branding company trying to sell me used tennis shoes,
I'm offended.
Yes, and so I think that to me that is the big problem, and I still see a lot of big companies running a playbook from the 90s, right? The mass marketing playbook, which is just keep sending more email and push. I'm in control of my marketing conversation with you. You come to my website, give me your email, I'm going to send you a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, I think these big brands and companies are doing it at the expense of really getting to know their customers. They like to talk first and listen later, is what I like to say. And consumers aren't tolerating it anymore. And so with My Alerts, the new business, we're doing what TiVo did for television viewing. No one watches live TV anymore. Do you?
Right, no.
Because you want to skip the ads.
I want to skip the ads, and I want to watch it when it's convenient for me to watch it. I'm going to watch television my way on my time, and I'm not going to be interrupted by something that's not pertinent or relevant to me.
That's correct.
That's it.
Yep. And yet, if you go to most of the large e-commerce sites, they still want the old thing. And, nothing's more frustrating to a consumer than when a product's out of stock or if it's not available yet. I can't go to bestbuy.com and just say, I don't want your weekly flyer. I just want to know when there's 4K TVs on sale or if there's new PS4 games. And so the My Alerts individualization marketing platform drops into any of these sites and now changes the entire formula of marketing. So now the consumer's driving it. They're in control. And we've successfully now deployed this in a lot of big sites. And it's it's literally capturing $1 million+ a day more value from their customers. And we've flipped the engagement around from mass marketing only being 1% to 3% engaged with to now we're getting 80 and 90% engagement because, again, the consumer's in control of the conversation.
Right. So a lot of marketers would tell you, we have data, we have analytics, we have more information than we've ever had before. we get personalization. All right, we can do the analysis and understand where you spend time and where you shop and deliver relevancy to you in a way that resonates. Give me a little of your perspective as an expert on kind of the evolution of the web and the future of marketing.
Yeah, so the beauty is we've got enough years in, and big companies have invested millions of dollars into personalization and recommendation to come. And I don't know about you, every one of us has gotten these personalized email offers, and they're not a good match 1 out of 5 times at their best. And the premise of recommendation and personalization technology is built on what you bought last.
Right.
Well, what's the most meaningless thing that you're going to buy?
What you bought last.
No, and yet that's what they base most of it on.
Right.
And so how can I now relate to you based on what you want to buy next?
Right.
Every person knows what they're going to buy next. And the process they go through to decide where and when they're going to buy the next thing is something that isn't in most personalization and recommendation technology, but it is in the MyAlerts platform in terms of its ability to engage. So we really apply what we like to call Facebook-like engagement. You know, the social networks have changed marketing fundamentally to the consumers. And people want to have control over their relationship and the people that they interact with. They want to have control over the conversations. I mean, you can even say, I don't want to get any more updates on Ryan's birthday stream on Facebook because I've already gotten 3 of them. I don't need to see Ryan's other 1,000 friends. So by having the networks provide that experience, that becomes now an expectation that is going to have to be everywhere. And we believe that, you know, the MyAlerts technology is something that enables that type of engagement on any of the e-commerce, travel, music. You know, it's amazing to me. I can't sign up on iTunes to hear when U2 puts out a new song. I get it. They're a big brand, but they're losing tremendous opportunity by not doing what I call micro-marketing at a person and product level.
And so micro-marketing is giving that person, that consumer, what they want when
That's
they want it.
exactly right.
Yeah.
You can call it micro-marketing. We call it me-marketing.
Right.
Right? Because if you get a tweet update or you get a Facebook update, you don't see that as coming from Facebook. You see that as coming from me.
Right.
And so when we enable me marketing on all of these sites, I'm leaving myself a note to say, I want to buy the GoPro Hero 4 when it comes out. And I'm leaving that for me. And then when it finally comes out, I'm emailing myself to say, hey, the GoPro Hero 4 is out. Come back and get it, Doug.
Right.
And to me, to the degree that by the way, the single biggest struggle we have bringing this to market, even though we've got all the proof, all the results, all the use cases.
The conversion, you showing the improvement.
Is the marketing mind. The marketing mind that wants control of the conversation. It's got a campaign for the next 6 months. It knows what it wants to send on Labor Day. It knows what it wants to send. But all of that's on the retailer's calendar and schedule. That is not being on the customer's calendar and schedule.
So what's the mind shift? That's kind of the traditional way we've done things. What do you believe, just kind of stepping back from MyAlerts, but as someone that could give advice into the marketing mind shift that needs to happen to be more consumer-centric, what advice would you have? Well,
Look, the beauty, Ryan, is things are so abysmal. They're so bad. Ad blocking technology is the single biggest used application. 40% of my internet audience is completely vanished, right? And so major companies are literally getting the lights turned out in terms of their marketing effectiveness. So the good news is the amount of pressure these guys are feeling right now is forcing them to have to look at alternatives. But the only thing what I see, especially in the marketing world, is I always assume marketing people had MBAs and were pragmatic and evidence-based people that would be able to do multivariate testing and all of these things. And yet their willingness to do so many of that, their propensity to protect sacred cows is so prevalent and so strong that that's our single biggest
resistance to change.
Problem.
And
Yeah.
Yep, I got it. So MyAlerts isn't the only thing that you're working
That's
on now.
right.
There's another endeavor, kind of a...
Yeah, there's one. We built a thing called WebClip Drop. You and I have been sales guys forever.
We have.
And, I used to sponsor the pizza giveaway at the local place, right? And people would put their business cards, and then that became we don't have to do that anymore. We got LinkedIn,
Right.
we got data, there's more data available to everybody, but now people that can use those technologies better, faster, and more nimbly are the ones that are going to win. And so frankly, we invented this out of a need of my own salespeople to be able to quickly identify leads. So it's WebClip Drop. We allow any salesperson or even any recruiter online to see someone's name and go, because usually you have to do a big cycle. You got to go to LinkedIn. You got to see if you know somebody. You got to try
Get
to
an
find their
introduction,
email.
right.
With WebClip Drop, you just highlight it and hit clip, and then it brings it into the
Into the
WebClip
CRM.
board, which does all of the lookups, and it augments all of that data. It finds the Facebook profile, the LinkedIn profile, the GitHub information, their email. So it brings that profile of the person into your clipboard, and then you just go to Salesforce and hit drop, and it fills everything out and puts that data into your CRM application and allows you to very quickly move into a marketing relationship.
It gives sales professionals something that they need desperately, which is time.
That's exactly right.
That's it.
Yes.
That's the solution.
Yep.
Okay. It's good. So you gave your 23-year-old self some advice.
Mm-hmm.
People that are watching this and thinking about, hey, I want to start something. I want to do something. I want to chase the dream. Kind of any insights or perspective as somebody who's been on this cycle their entire career?
Yep.
Yeah.
My first advice is be a passenger first. If you have any trepidation, ride in the car with someone else who is doing it, has done it, is working on it. Learn from them. Be a part of the experience. Understand what it's like to be in that environment and the sacrifice, but just learning the things that you need to learn in order to turn stuff on. I got invited at a big university to lead their entrepreneurial course, and I said no, because I'm like, anybody that's a true entrepreneur isn't going to be coming to college, right? They're already out.
They're doing it.
They're out doing it. And so I'm going to be talking to what I call wantrepreneurs, which are these people that think that they want to do it. And I just in myself couldn't, it's bad advice. So.
Yep. And then let's shift. How about in a large enterprise organization, many of whom are your customers, they want to unlock or unleash some of the entrepreneurial spirit, a little more innovation, right? A little more game-changing thinking. A lot of Fortune 500, 1,000 companies, I'm at these events. Innovation is top of mind. Everyone's talking about it, but it's hard to deliver on it inside the context of a large enterprise. How about some perspective on that and what you see from where you sit and live as an entrepreneur? How could large organizations adopt more of that kind of thinking and the speed?
I'll tell you, it's probably beyond the technology, beyond all of the startup stuff. It's probably been my biggest area of development has been learning how to get larger companies to see, understand, interpret, introduce, and adopt new technology. And finding your advocate, finding your early adopter types of folks is only 5% of the beginning of what gets stuff in. And companies, frankly, are designed to kill innovation from what I've seen. But when it's worked well, Ryan, doing pilots is an incredibly smart way to do a very small control. I always like to say, pick fights you can win and win them big, right? And so when we've successfully brought innovation in, we've brought it into a situation where it was kind of a layup. We knew that this was going to solve a problem and be something that we could do. The next thing is obviously you got to build a business case. I'm astonished at how often, even though C-level executives are in these places, they don't know how to represent or build a business case around solving a problem. And so we've literally had to pre-build the business case that we hand to people that allows them to go through this socialization process. And I think in today's world, to the degree, a lot of the big retailers we work with, they come to us and say, we won't buy anything Everything's got to be a pilot. We're not going to give you any money. And, again, even in that, they're designed to kill startups, right? To kill the very innovation that they themselves want.
Yeah.
And I think they need to start. I've only seen a very rare few number of companies that have actually figured out how to make themselves outside innovation friendly, to create sandboxes of experimentation. I mean, one of them was Macy's. I was amazed that they have a forum. They invited a dozen companies to come down and pitch them. They do this, I think, quarterly. They pick the best of the best that then go into a specific program designed to bring outside innovation in and try new, because they all have fatigue. There's so much going on that how do you whittle it down to just the things? And I'd not seen many other companies have a specific program and design to actually bring in ideas, vet ideas, socialize ideas, bring them to life, test them, and then scale them. And I think companies that can do that more and more are going to be the ones that are going to really win.
Yep, good. A couple rapid fire questions. What's your morning routine? How do you when you get what time do you get up, and how do you get into your day to go do all this epic shit?
I swear my best thinking and creativity starts hitting me at about 4:30 before I'm awake up. I
like in bed.
If I'm going to give a talk or I'm inventing a product or I've got to have some kind of breakthrough, stuff just starts. I think when you're relaxed and in that most, I just see stuff. And so, I wish I could tell you I do the Zen Buddhist stuff in the morning, and I leap out of bed, man. I go racing down because I'm getting old and the ideas don't come back to you. So when you see something crystally in your mind, typically I'll write things down on paper first because I can do that faster and then translate it into a PowerPoint or a keynote or something. And so I literally am like out of bed and I crack a Diet Mountain Dew and I'm pounding on my computer. But one of the things is I used to clear my inbox out in the morning right away, and now I don't do that anymore because creativity comes slower when you get a little bit older. And if I've got a couple of big rock things I need to solve, I just find that I need to get those things resolved as early in the morning. Because when I get to 9 o'clock and I'm in the office and the herd of animals are trying to get their problems solved, I don't have that space. And I can clear my email box out at noon when I'm wolfing down a sandwich or something. But I really try to make sure I protect that spot. But the most important thing I've done is, man, when I get to 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, I used to go till 10, 11 at night, and I could. But now, man, when I get home at 6 or 7, I'm done.
Lights out.
I'm there for my family, my wife, my friends. I might be on my computer, but I'm looking at Facebook and I'm sending people happy birthday notes and I'm doing shopping and whatever. I play,
Yeah. And I was going to say, how do you balance with downtime and relaxation? So that's you shut it down at night, you play, other hobbies, time with family.
Yeah, I bought some new toys, as you know. I got a fun little car and some scooters that I love to ride around, go have some ice cream with my kids. I got dogs. We just love playing with our dogs and wrestling. And so, I've got a lot of the second childhood stuff going on. I just love playing and rumbling and going out and seeing the world with friends. Just took my kids on a trip out to Glacier and Yellowstone and want to take them to see the world. So,
books. Best book or two recommendations, big impact books?
Yeah, my best book lately that I've read was by Ben Horowitz called The Hard Thing About the Hard Things. And it was one of the most honest and truthful reads around how you got to make those hard decisions and make the changes are necessary in your life. And the most recent one I've gotten a pre-look at is actually called The Fuck It List.
The bucket list. Yeah, I've heard. I know the bucket list. I know of one guy, Jesse Itzler, who I got to interview for the blog, also, who's done some pretty epic shit in the entrepreneurial world. He has a bucket list.
Yeah, and it's not the stuff I'm going to do before I die. It's the stuff I'm going to stop doing before I die. And I think that's a great read for folks. So
that's a good. Thanks for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.